Hello and welcome to another episode of the Underhive Lorekeepers podcast.
What?
I'm Samuel.
What are you doing?
I forgot what I was supposed to say.
I know. Holy mackerel.
It's been a long day. It's been a long day.
Record scratch, go again.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I'm Sam. It's Nathan. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, as professional as ever, that's how I'm doing. I'm away at the moment, folks. I'm in the lovely state of Adelaide.
Which is crazy because I didn't even know I could communicate back to 2005. Yeah.
Listen, it is the most beautiful country town in all of Australia. You back off, sir. Okay. Yes, and for those who know Adelaide, it is called the City of Churches.
Yep.
But it is also the City of Service Stations. Holy mackerel. That's what I'm working on at the moment. We're going around drilling holes in service stations. And
as opposed to drilling holes in churches.
Yeah, well, that didn't go so well, did it? But
I'm not allowed to be a Catholic anymore, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah, the new Pope came in and said, get rid of him. Just, we've had enough of him. I mate, you've thrown the balance of the show already. But, I have been, just busy working, which is, I guess, fortunate, unfortunate, I don't know. But, lots of hobby happening. I've put up one image so far of my little night gobos.
Yes.
They are getting a lot of work done. I just haven't been taking a lot of photos, unfortunately. But you have been stepping in with your Warhammer the Old World content, which has been amazing.
So much Old World.
And we've got quite a following, I think, amongst our little gaming group of people who just want to play. So it's been fantastic.
It is I've decided to paint orange. This isn't our hobby diary, though. We should be talking about hobby.
Yeah.
No, you've actually somehow managed to go away to a different state, and you've done more hobby while you're in a different state than you do at home.
There's a very good reason for that.
Yep.
When I get to sit down and do hobby, I don't have a 2-year-old assaulting me. That's it. Yes, trying to think of a very PC way of saying annoying the living daylights out of me. I've done quite a fair bit, but otherwise I have been good. How about yourself?
Good. I've been doing lots of Old World, and that's about it. I've sort of just realised I'm actually quite boring. But that's okay. That's okay. I'll cry later. But we don't have much time. You unfortunately do have to get up at stupid o'clock. So we aren't going to do a very big opening. I know, listeners, you love when our openings go for 35 minutes and people yell at me for not putting a timestamp in to say 35 minutes opening. So we will jump into some actual stuff. So if you're listening to this now, remember, you have until the end of June to get us your listener lore for our next listener lore competition, The Big Bad, and that will actually be read out so we'll choose a bunch of them and read them out on our next birthday episode, which is coming out, I believe, the 11th of July. I'm asking you.
I'm agreeing with you. I thought
excellent.
I'm pretty sure our birthday date is the 8th of July.
It's the 8th, yes. But
yes,
the 11th is like 2 weeks from now. Yeah, but
I can't remember my wife's birthday, but show birthday, absolutely, I remember that.
Yeah, man, I'm way off. Yeah, no. So the 11th is the date. This should come out on the 27th. And then after that, 2 weeks, the 11th. So you'll have from this episode like 4 days, 5 days, 3 days.
Yeah.
5 days, 7 days. You'll have 7 days. You'll have a period of time. Anyway, listen to this. write some lore, send it through to us. We want to read about those big bads. We read a bunch of them out on our next Listener Lore episode. And, well, the one we like the most gets a prize.
Yeah.
And on top of that, if you follow us on Instagram, you've probably seen the video where we are talking about giving away a Goliath gang that has been kindly donated to us by Power Hungry Monkey 84, aka Adam. And to do that, the competition is ridiculously complex. Join our Patreon on any paid tier, and you go into the running to just win this game. It's freaking amazing. It's right here. You can see it in the video. It's right here.
Oh, I can see it on your screen at the moment. Don't you love podcasting, the visual medium that it is? I love
podcasting, the visual audio medium. And, yeah, so that is my part here, Nathan. Let's keep this bad boy on track. Why don't you read out our new Patreons?
I will endeavour to. However, one of the Patreons will probably sidetrack me. So, we do have 4 new patrons this week, this month, this fortnight. The professionalism of the show is just at an all-time high today. It's fantastic. Peter, Dewey, Fraugenstein, I think it is. Fraugenstein? I'm going to say Fraugenstein. That looks pretty accurate. And then the last one is Elusive Badger. Now, Elusive Badger and I have had a chat. I don't really post much or anything to my personal Instagram account, but I did make a post just to attack him. So, I'm happy you're part of our Patreon. It just means you're closer to us, which means that potentially and hopefully we can hurt you more emotionally, obviously.
Yeah. And obviously me physically with the international fight tour.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So that's going to be fantastic when that gets thrown down. So Elusive Badger, thank you very much for joining our Patreon. You're still dead to us. The other 3 members, Peter, Dewey, and Fraugenstein, thank you so much for joining our Patreon. We really appreciate everything that you do to help the show.
Could
Not
you
you,
please
Elusive
stop
Badger.
making threats against the audience?
I just pick fights with them.
No, I'm just saying I appreciate what he's doing, but I'm happy to go toe to toe. Anyway, let us continue pushing forward professionalism of the highest order.
Professionalism, tight. If you enjoy the show and are interested in supporting the podcast, please shoot over to patreon.com/the Underhive Lorekeepers podcast. We are 100% funded by the goodwill of our audience, though we do this for the love of our hobby and because we get to make open threats against our listeners. Each month we have a Patreon exclusive episode, as well as competitions, polls on episodes, and other bonus content. And if you are looking for another way to support us, get onto our social media, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. A like, comment, and subscribe helps us grow and gets our particular brand of lore out into the world. All of our links will be in the show notes. And don't forget to give us a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform. We also now are on Discord. We have been talking about it for a while, but we've opened it up. And it's kind of gone gangbusters. It's great seeing the community sort of building up around us, coming together on Discord, and we talk about things like just lore and gang ideas. There's a whole channel about spam your corrections. People love bullying me on the internet. It's a lot of fun, and there will be a link to that in the show notes here as well. If you're on Discord, check it out. If you like it, stay. If you don't, it's Elusive Badger's fault.
I approve. I totally approve that message. All right. Let us talk about what we're talking about in this episode. We are talking about Guilds.
Yes, so when the Jafar... we need to go back. Have you seen Stargate SG-1?
Yeah, I think I have. Yeah.
Excellent. So, we're not talking about Stargate SG-1. Silly audience, this is a Necromunda podcast. We are, in fact, talking about the merchant guilds of Necromunda. Now, the guilds have been a huge part of Necromunda since obviously N95, where there were different ways to sort of bring them in, and they brought this amazing sort of mercantile, sort of capitalistic idea into Necromunda. Because at the end of the day, we all know who's the real big bad guy of Necromunda?
Freedom.
The Tau. But after them,
Yes,
capitalism. And capitalism is what makes Necromunda go around. So we sort of thought, why not get some of that information out there, have a think about it, have a talk about it, and then we decided to do an episode on the Merchants Guilds. So,
well, it feels like a natural progression. We have gone through pretty much all the gang houses now. There's a few little dots. Well, we've done all the gang houses and so forth.
Yeah.
But we have our sister station doing the noble houses, and it feels like the guilds are something that I definitely feel is if you're playing a campaign, they become such an important part of what you're doing in a campaign. But maybe in a one-off game or in very short-run campaigns, they sort of get a little bit pushed off to the wayside because they're not a critical factor of getting my X, Y, and Z members onto the tabletop shooting plasma guns and grenade launchers and all the rest of it. But I think they're an important facet of understanding not only life on Necromunda, but life across the Imperium as a whole, and the types of governing bodies needed to be able to establish and commit control over such a vast population, whilst also still having the very presence of the tithe always sitting there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And how each part of these adds as a cog to achieving that result,
Yes.
to achieving the tithe.
yes. And not to mention, you can have them in game. You can ally with them.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I genuinely don't think I've ever played a game against someone when they've been allied with a guild. I've played against plenty of people who have allied with houses or criminal organisations. I genuinely don't think I've ever played against anyone when they've had a guild ally.
No, I haven't either, and I will say it's a disappointing thing because the miniatures are just ridiculously good. Like, just some of the most amazing things. The one that springs to mind straight away is the group that you can ally to from the Water Guild, which is just
the
phenomenal.
siphoning delegation.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
dude.
the big lad in there. You're just like, whoa, mate, what an absolute gold star
the
winning miniature.
Subnauticon?
Yes. Yeah, beautiful miniature. But so that's again one of those things that I think so much love, time, and thought has been poured into them, and they just don't get the look that they deserve, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, hopefully someone listens to this and decides to get into it. So, all that aside, let's talk about the basic idea behind the Merchants Guilds themselves.
Yes.
Now, the guild makes up the thin strands that hold the houses of Necromunda together. Within the Great Web, they are the connections along which all trade flows, and all oaths of coin are made. Unlike the clans and noble houses, the Merchants Guild did not seize their power through hereditary right or force of arms. In fact, they did not seize power at all. Over the centuries, they have laid claim to the spaces left between the great houses and their vassals, brokering deals between clans who will not speak with each other, or ensuring trade flows smoothly, even when open gang war is tearing a hive apart. In time, as the power of the Merchants Guild grew, Lord Helmore recognised their importance to Necromunda and ratified their claims to power, granting charters to certain families. This authority to handle the vital resource of the hive does not extend to ownership of land, and Merchant Guild families rarely have permanent territories, instead constantly travelling between settlements as nomadic traders. Though the inhabitants of Necromunda might occasionally refer to the Merchants Guild as a single entity, it is in fact made up of dozens of sub-factions, many of which are powerful bodies in their own right. To the citizens of the Hive, they are the Water Guild, the Corpse Farmers, or any of the many other names that the individual arms of the Merchants Guild go by. Often these factions are simply referred to as Guilders, a term synonymous with trade. Now, before you say a word here, I immediately have a gang idea.
Oh,
So
right.
how it says here, the blah blah blah. It does not extend to ownership of land, and merchants guild families rarely have permanent territories. Instead,
Yep.
constantly travelling between settlements as nomadic traders.
Yeah.
Okay, now I get it. Necromunda, futuristic technology, all that sort of nonsense. I genuinely picture like a Wild West style wagon train. Instead of being pulled by horses, though, it's pulled by like these big, bulky, like palanquin servitors. And
Oh, okay.
so it's where the like
What
you
about
know,
a
like
rhinox?
sick,
Yeah.
like a fantasy style rhinox,
Yeah.
or like a grox, even though it's
Yeah.
a cattle beast, like it's this big lumbering,
Yeah.
and then I'm picturing this this wagon that's sort of it's what's the Scorpius transport from the Adeptus Mechanicus?
Oh,
You know,
yeah,
that
yeah.
one there.
Yeah,
Picture
yeah.
that, but it's
Yeah.
instead of the weaponry in that, it's sort of hovering and being pulled by the servitors because the grav plates are just keeping it off ground. But
Yeah.
then the travelling behind it is. Have you seen Django Unchained?
I have. Yes.
Yeah. Django Unchained, or is it just Django?
I think it's on. I think it's just Django. But yeah. Anyway. Either way, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
But you know, he's got like the tooth on the top, on the spring, and it sort of like swings back and forth. Picture that, but it's got that symbol for the Merchants Guild. And this is just like a general trader, so he would have a little bit of everything. He would have water and like cans of starch and like protein bars and all that sort of stuff. But then recycled power cells for last weapons.
Yeah.
He has a couple of sort of basic ammunition types for your auto guns or your stub guns and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Or
then-
like even like little like components for like from the air guild to help with the zeppelins and so forth, so they can put them the things that they can put in the ships to help them.
I knew it was coming. Yeah, like Zeppelin parts.
Yeah.
But he would have like this family. They would have 3 or 4 different caravans, all of different types, because they would be just general traveling merchants, and like. Because of that, because of the sort of the position, and we'll get into this inevitably, but the guilds effectively are untouchable. If you kill a guilder, you're done. So this travelling family, they would have their own weapons, maybe some sort of like household protectors or guards or whatever.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, maybe an enforcer, you know?
Or just even like even individuals who can see themselves attaching, like can see their fortunes attached to this group. So they just simply go, well, I will go along with them because I have some protection from them because they are guilders, and conversely, I provide them with a more agricultural form of a protection in the form of my shotgun or stub gun or whatever the case might be. But it also gets me away from X, Y, and Z gangs or members who are trying to hunt me down as well. Yeah. So I can now attach myself to them. And if I get attacked, hang on, old Orlok gang that was trying to hunt me down, you're actually attacking a merchant guild. So you could have a ragtag band attached to this caravan. So a Goliath, a Vansar, do you know what I mean? Who are all just like, yes, I need the protection of your name. You need the protection of my arms.
Was it Spartacus? In fact, no. I think it was Gotrek and Felix. Spartacus. But no, I actually think it was Spartacus, where it's you've taken the Roman Empire's coin. Or you've taken Roman coin. You serve the Romans now. In Troll Slayer, when Gotrek and Felix sign on with, I want to say it's like Vandita.
Yes, I
They're
remember this
like
now. Yep.
he's like a noble family from the Empire. They're heading to the Border Princes.
Yep.
And the captain of the guard hands him the coin. They're like, you've taken the coin now. You serve. You are also under their protection. I'm picturing that's what the Guilder are doing to these. Let's just go ahead and call them criminals.
Yeah.
The Guilder is actually saying to them, you've taken my coin, which means you serve me, but you also fall under my protection.
Yes, yeah. My name,
sick.
my badge becomes some way in shape, a way for you to have a certain level of authority as well. Because when we walk into this town, everybody knows the Merchants Guild is here. But it's funny that you thought of a gang idea straight off the bat. So did I, but from a different point of view. But I might talk about that after we do the second part of our read. Officially, each aspect of the Merchants Guild is known as a mercator, the High Gothic word for mercantile conclave. This is combined with the High Gothic term for the area of dominion. For instance, the Corpse Guild, which oversees the processing of Necromunda's dead and the creation of corpse starch, is known officially as the Mercator Pallidus. The power of the individual guilds varies from hive to hive, often depending on local resources. In the shadow of the spoil, the Iron Guild regulates miners and prospectors. On the sulphurous sea, it is the Guild of Salts, while in the suffocating depths of Big Hole, Air Guild Zephyrmen ply their trade.
Just quickly,
Please.
that's actually pronounced Zeppelin men. But no, sorry, continue.
Yeah, I thought you'd give an in-depth detail about what exactly they do. In High Primus, there are thousands of Guilder families and dozens of guilds, though 8 hold the greatest measure of the Merchants Guild's power. These are the Promethium Guild, the Water Guild, the Corpse Guild, the Slave Guild, the Guild of Coin, the Electro Guild, the Iron Guild, and the Air Guild. Zeppelin boys. Collectively, they are known in the Palatine cluster as the Great Guilds, and little business is done within the walls of Hive Primus without their knowledge. So I'm going to just stop there, and this is a perfect leeway into what my gang idea is.
Okay.
So it says there are thousands of Guilder families and dozens of guilds, right?
Yep.
To be confirmed as a Guilder family, or to be, basically established as a guild, you need the Helmore stamp of approval.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah. So, I imagine a delegation that goes around and tracks down these so-called guilders. So, anybody who's not one of the big, what do we say, big 8, right, who are claiming, we're the guild of, rat tails. Yes. So you can't touch us because we fall under the Merchants Guild. You're attacking the Merchants Guild. So this delegation goes out there and validates and verifies the guild.
Oh, sick.
So they basically turn up and they're like, do you meet this criteria to be a guild? Oh, you're calling yourselves the Corpse Guild? Oh, but your idea of a corpse guild is that you're creating corpses. You're not doing anything with them. You're just killing off anybody who doesn't agree with you, and you're using the protection of the idea of being a guild to prevent people from attacking you back. You are not a corpse guild. And so what do they need to do then? They need to liquidate those people. And they just go, you are done. So this is like Palatine enforcers, mixed in with probably a few rogue elements and so forth.
There is a black market item. It is the sanctioning writ, and it's a document. Basically, the Merchants Guild give it to you, and you can then use that to officially put a bounty on someone.
Yes, perfect.
So I'm imagining this group, this auditing team that you've talked about there, they would have some absolute serious mamma jammers with them. I'm talking House Grime, seal of approval, but they've got actual gear, like they're actually competent soldiers.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then this guy would be like, no, you are not a guild. You've used our name for personal gain without paying the necessary fees and tithes.
Yeah.
As such, on on this day of this year of our rule under the great Lord, glorious Lord of Helmor / Aranthus, under the Emperor of Mankind, and he would literally hand them this document. I can imagine he would be this bespectacled little nerd in like a fancy hat, kind of like you've seen Mulan.
Yeah.
You know the
dragon.
the emperor. No, not Mushu. The emperor's guy that goes with the army, and he's like the guy from the palace. He's the nerdy like official. He's an official.
Yeah, like a bean counter sort of character.
He's a bean counter. Yeah. But this guy would be so fearless given the fact that he is an actual member of the guild that he would walk up and I can just imagine him like folding it and then sticking it in the guy's front pocket and like giving him a little tap and being like, that's for you.
Yep.
Bye. And he'd just give him a little snarky wave and be like, you've 15 minutes and then everyone knows. Bye.
Yes, exactly. So that's exactly how my mind went to it as well, in that you would have this elite group of soldiers mercenaries, whatever need be, but they would have representations of the guilds within them as well. Yeah. So, there would be a member from the Guild of Coin, the Electro Guild, and these are all people who can verify or deny a claim of one of these, families or one of these collections of people who are claiming to be a guild. So they go down there and say, well, we're a subsector of the Iron Guild. Okay, show us your history. And they reveal their history. They're like, all these names and all these references don't mean anything. And the problem is that
where's your documentation?
Where's your documentation? But this family might actually have it. So from 200-300 years ago, they've got history that says we were attached to the Iron Guild, but it was fabricated by somebody back then. You know what I mean? So when they check it out, they go, these names don't make sense. These dates don't make sense. You're not part of the Iron Guild.
Yeah.
You have been... So even though they may consider themselves totally part of it, they can still get completely liquidated because their documentation doesn't match up, because whoever first tried to wear the guise of a guild way back in the day did it so successfully that it managed to fool several generations. So the gang is, it's quite a boring type gang in the sense that it's just like sheriffs going around just got to check all your paperwork's up to scratch, make sure all your tickets are in, you've got a bloke operating a forklift over there. Is he certified?
Is he forklift certified? Oh, he's a servitor. Sorry, all good.
Yeah. So he's servitor-fied.
All right. So the families which comprise the Merchant Guild are obviously called Guilders. Now, Guilders are a closely bound people, intensely loyal to their own kind, and insular in tradition. They are secretive about many aspects of their dealings and way of life. Though to other hivers, their style of dress and habits are strange and incomprehensible. Amongst themselves, they speak a secret language quite unlike the common tongue of the hive. The Guilders have no territory of the hive. They live wherever their business takes them, sometimes basing themselves in the domain of a single house, but as we said before, more often wandering from one place to another. The strict laws of hive and house protect itinerant guilders. Their safety is guaranteed by the imperial house itself. And the same laws that protect guilders also forbid them from owning property in the hive city or the spire. So warehouses, trading posts, and accommodation are all provided by the house. This is weird because it shows you the amount of power the guilders have. And it goes back to what we sort of spoke about in that first read. They will broker deals between clan houses that aren't speaking to each other. Or even when there's gang war happening, they're sitting there going, that's fine. We need to sell bullets to the Dalark, and we need to sell bullets to the Orlocks. Or, what's that? Goliath, you're running out of your stims. Well, yes, that's because you've just firebombed those Escher. Okay, Escher, we need those stims for the Goliath. Yes, we understand you're going to charge a premium. Yes, charge them 50% more. Excellent, thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, Goliath, we got you your chems. They did charge you an extra 14% though. Yep, that's right. That will take those credits. Thank you. Thank you very much. Blah blah blah.
Yep.
I should have said that the opposite way. The Escher charged 14% more, and they charged the Sorry, it was a Goliath turned Gilder.
Yeah, you went a bit Goliath there yourself. Right. So I perfectly what you said there is what I totally believe, and I've mentioned this on the podcast before, is that the symbiotic relationship of Necromunda between the gang houses is so insipid. Like, they need each other to be able to maintain their wars against each other. But the glue between all of it, the mortar and the cracks, that as I mentioned before, the small cogs of the machine are the guilds. They're the ones who are doing all of this, back and forth work. They're the ones who are helping facilitate the end goals of these gangs, even if it means trading with each other. Yes, we're going to be going to war with each other, but we need some way to obtain and secure certain bits of equipment, certain chemicals, certain stims, and whatever may be the case. And the guilds become such an important facet of that. But I think furthermore to what you're saying about them not being able to own territorial land within the hives is massively important, because it does not allow them to establish basically like a bricks and mortar power base. They are, they're the online store of Necromunda. You can never quite fully pin them down and go, okay, well, we're going to attack X, Y, and Z guild.
Okay. Yep, the guild is at Amazon.
Yeah, they are. They're basically like Amazon. And that helps destabilize. It gives them incredible amounts of power, but not in the same traditional way that the gang houses would have, that the noble houses would have. So it allows them to go to be friends with everybody. Whilst the city's burning down around them, they're selling everybody petrol, and everybody loves them for it. You know what I mean?
Yes,
They're like, thank you so much, we love you, thank you very much for this. The Corpse Guild's a prime example. Corpse Guild's just keep killing each other. We'll help facilitate you butchering each other because you're helping us do what we need to do. Now, they don't have that established power base, so they will never rival the noble houses, but most importantly, they will never rival the imperial house, because the position that they're in, you think about it, if one or two guilds decided that they wanted to band together, the incredible power they could establish for themselves in, I guess, contention of the imperial house could be quite vast. They could simply say our ability to interact with all the houses, noble or gang, means that we don't have an enemy here. And Lord Helmore, you have many.
But it also keeps them. What's the word? It forces them to stay moving. So
Yes.
you can't just set up your caravans in one place, because you're able to sell to this settlement and maybe the next settlement and maybe the settlement behind you, but 4 settlements down, that other family's there now.
Yeah.
So you've just lost it. You've just lost a customer base, and it's not like everyone can just come to your shop and find you and keep your currency flowing. You have to keep moving, and I think Helmore's done it because of that exact reason you've just said. It's to keep them to keep trade flowing to all edges of the hive and the planet as a whole, but to also ensure that they exist by his grace.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
And they have to, because they really do hold quite a lot of power. There's not one gang, not one noble house that can claim, even as something as simple as the Air Guild. They can't claim. Don't look at me like that.
You keep bringing them up. You keep bringing them up. Everyone bullies me. I thought it said Zeppelin. All right. Sorry. No. Go.
Wow. Oh, we touched a sore point. We're getting to our second birthday episode, and this still hurts you. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing. But you take somebody who just needs to keep the air pumping. You think about how much power they have just on their own.
Yep.
And if they were able to establish themselves in more than some sort of nomadic type of establishment, then they could genuinely become a real power base. And
Yeah.
by all means, they still are. Like I know that they're not allowed to have holdings within the walls of Hive Primus. You know what I mean? So, or within the hives. But I imagine that there are certainly buildings that are very, very much attached to the guilds.
This is what I wanted to say. Exactly what you're saying. Sorry, finish what you're saying.
Yeah, so
I think you're going to say what I'm thinking.
They like on paper, we have nothing to do with the guilds. This belongs to Nathaniel von Spoodlehead. You know what I mean? And he's got no guild association. Yeah, I'd rate him. No association with the guild. But you walk into Nathaniel's establishment, and there are Air Guild representations all over the place. And he's just like, I just like their bits and bobs. Oh, okay.
This is just their favourite hangout.
This is just their favourite hangout. We consider their lucky seven. And
Yes.
But if it were not for the Air Guild, old Nathaniel would not have this established in this building. But as I said, on paper they don't have it. So they would definitely have their tendrils in well-established foundations and buildings and manufactorum and whatever the case might be. Like obviously the Corpse Guild has Factoria to be able to do the processing. Do you know what I mean? But they would be almost something that is lent out to the Corpse Guild more so than something that is owned by the Corpse Guild. Rather than going, you totally own this. It'd be like you have, a 10,000 year lease on this building, which basically means you own it, but you don't own it.
But you don't own it. But that's the thing. You would have you've mentioned the Water Guild. They would have huge water recycling facilities. They would have these massive reservoirs of water. Now, yes, they would belong to the Imperial House. They would belong to the Imperium. They would be maintained by Adeptus Mechanicus and minor adepts and members of the Water Guild.
Yep.
We all agree on that. But they would just hang out there because the Water Guild handles the water.
Yeah.
They need to know supplies, purity. They need to know where it's coming from, where it's going to. Are we disconnecting this hive? Are we turning this hive on? Are we disconnecting this dome? Are we making these people thirsty, and are we drowning these ones?
That's that power that I'm talking about. Like, imagine one guild house on its own has an incredible amount of power. The combination of one or two or three coming together, my God, Emperor, the amount of pressure and disturbance they can cause upon the hive would just be absolutely bonkers. It is in the absolute best interest of whichever ruling family it is, Aranthus, bloody Helmore, whatever you want to call it, to ensure that they control the guilds as much as the guilds control the ebb and flow of day-to-day life of Necromunda.
Yes.
Yeah, look, we do have a little bit more raid information to give out, so we'll get back into that, and then we'll do what we do best. I
think that was the first time we've ever been derailed by just conversation.
It's pretty rare, isn't it?
It's not something we do.
Not all guilders are equally wealthy or important. The more prosperous families live in the spire and control trading empires which shift vast cargoes between Hive City and the noble houses. At the other end of the spectrum are the lone speculators who trade in the Underhive, ever hopeful of discovering some new lode of iron slag or a hoard of archaeotech. These adventurous individuals are often encountered deep in the hive, either on their own or accompanied by hired guns and protectors. In the bad zones, guilders often hire gang fighters to protect them from outlaws and mutants. Guilders provide underhivers with the only secure way of storing large quantities of money. This they do by keeping money secure as guild credit, a form of deposit account that all guilders will honour. If a guilder should die, his debts, accounts and other business arrangements pass to his successor. Guilders also supply underhivers with their physical currency in the form of guild bonds and guild tokens. Bonds are large denominations of oblong chips of ceramite bearing an indelible imprint of value. Smaller token chips are carried as loose change and are used within the settlements as everyday currency. These guild tokens are often referred to simply as credits.
Do you know they actually made them? Games Workshop released actual Necromundan credits.
Oh, wow, you just triggered a memory. I do remember that now. Holy mackerel, yes. Yeah, they did too, didn't they? It was definitely one of those things I was like, I'm not that interested in it. Now I'm like, sign me up. I want them. I want them now.
On one side, it was the Imperial, like the Aquila, right?
Yeah.
Then the other side, if I remember, it was like Helmore's head, but it was in like that Caesar sort of like profile picture.
It was too, yeah.
I think it was like a 100 credit chip, or I don't remember. But it was that. I saw one on. I think it was eBay, or someone linked a sale of one on one of the buy, swap, and sell pages, and it was going for like $1,000. I wish, man. I wish.
It was, as I said to you, it was one of those things when I first saw them. I was like, it's cool, it's nifty, but I wasn't that impressed. And now, especially given all the work we've done on this podcast, has made me go, oh man, I wish I had one of them just to put on a display shelf, just to be cool. But actually, I'm just looking at one now. Sorry, I did distract myself. Yeah, that's freaking awesome.
Right.
Yes. But look, what I was mentioning before about the strength and the power of the guilds, the fact that they control the money, like even outside of the guild of coin, there's other guilds out there saying, yeah, you can come and apply with credit for us. You know what I mean? So we can provide you with, you're going to pay the water guild X amount and create yourself a credit. We can hold on to that for you. They become these like satellite banks for the hive, which is so powerful, so dangerous as well, but it reiterates the fact of why they are so desperately protected as well, because you cannot have these satellite banks constantly being disturbed, or just constantly having to find a new member who goes, okay, well, I've got to get all the data, I've got to process all the debts, and if that guilder was holding on to X amount of payment, like physical currency, and they were killed with their physical currency, that money's not going to come about again. So the person taking over needs to then be able to obtain the currency that was lost so that they can pay.
But that's exactly it. So, Nathan, you're a guilder, and you take payment for goods from little Timmy. Little Timmy and his settlement have just paid you 10,000 credits to get equipment for their settlement. And then an Orlok gang comes and kills you and steals that money. But everyone knows Timmy paid you, which means the guild is now out either 10,000 credits worth of equipment that little Timmy purchased, or they say, screw Timmy, we never got the money, and all of a sudden their reputation is now questionable.
Yeah.
So it's not just the fact that they are banks. Like, you can imagine those ledgers that they carry around with them. My trading family from earlier, in one of those caravans, in the strongest, toughest caravan would be their sort of like lockbox, right?
Yep.
I'm picturing this caravan that's proper, like armored, has the heavy stubber on top. That it's where that rogue Goliath is, you know.
Yeah.
It's where that Escher from before, she's sitting on top with her needle rifle, because
Yeah.
that's the thing they got to protect. Because in that is, I'm imagining this huge, it's an actual book that has the incomings and outgoings of all the costs, and
Yeah.
it's not a servitor, there's an actual guilder
Yeah.
that writes in there, you know, we've accepted X number of currency from this
Yeah.
settlement for this, we've paid out on this debt here.
Mm-hmm.
And as on their yearly rotation around the settlements, when they get back to their quote unquote home base, that book is put down, and then another book is put down next to it, and it's all copied across. And
Yes.
the information travels back to the head of the family. You know, like, because I'm picturing it almost like it's, and I'll try and do this without being insensitive. Like, so Romani gypsies.
Yeah. Yep.
They fall under particular families, even though there may be different bands, like groups of them traveling around, you know,
Yeah.
back during sort of olden days and that sort of thing, they would still be part of greater families. So I imagine that these Guilder families and the different caravans and the different traveling groups that were going settlement to settlement, every year or 5 years or 10 years, they would come back together and they would bring their tallies back to the head of the family, who, you know, was the most accomplished guilder, or who was the current head of the family.
Yeah.
And so when they were going to, because it's, you said before, when the guilder dies, their debts, accounts and other business arrangements go to the successor. So every 10 years, in my mind, the successor gets updated. So this
Right.
at the moment,
Yeah.
you're the successor because you've got the best sales for the last 10 years.
Yeah, right.
But all of a sudden, the next family reunion comes along, and your older brother has not only sold more, but he has more ongoing contracts than you. So
Yeah.
all of a sudden, his ledger is copied across, and it's now the prime ledger because it has the most money coming into the family, right? He's now the successor. So I'm picturing it almost like that information is, it's the rogue trader's the warrant of trade, sorry.
Yeah, warrant of trade. Yep.
It's that important. Like this book, and I picture it as a physical book because it's been traveling with the family for hundreds of years through father and son and mother and daughter.
Well, I think like a data slate or something becomes unreliable. It can get corrupted. It can get destroyed. Whereas the physical book and the physical copy, these are things that, unless somebody comes out to destroy them, probably won't go and attack that person.
Correct.
Or probably won't even destroy it. Probably won't even try and loot it. They'll just be like, stupid book. I'm not carrying a stupid book. You know, whereas, you know, they could be attacked with some sort of virus that would destroy all of their digital copies. So they need to maintain this. But I really like the idea that they would update who the successor is. So for a region of a hive, they would just simply say, okay, we come together, this is our, you know, our quarterly whatever guilders meeting, and it might only meet every, like, say, even 25 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And it says, okay, there's a whole swathe of new faces, but that we still see all the old souls there, and we come together and we work out where in the hive has I don't know, say the Promethium Guild, right? Where in the hive has the Promethium demands increased? Where have they decreased? What is happening to our resources? What's happening to our supply? Supply lines, have we got good connections with those in the underground to run? And it's just this, it's almost like a family gathering in a way of this monstrous family, and everything is discussed, and then everybody is sent off again for a decade or 15 years or 25 years, whatever the case might be, and we all come back together, and the whole premise is to show how you have improved or strengthened the guild in your window that you had to make it better. And as people complete that window, then there's sometimes there's certain Guilder families just don't rock up, presumed dead, and it might take them 50 years to get back to another meeting because they've had to struggle and fight to get anywhere near where the meeting is held.
I also want to say that it's not necessarily an individual who is the successor, but the leader of a caravan.
Yes.
So, during that 25 years, you may pass on, and then all of a sudden, your son's now the head of that caravan. And when that ledger comes in, it goes, oh, okay, new person in charge. All right, show me a ledger. Well, you're the successor. You've built upon your caravan's wealth. It's gotten up.
Yeah.
And so the heads of these families aren't looking at individuals. They're looking at arms of their empire.
Yeah.
And, oh, dude, that's sick. But
And it reiterates the point of, like, how powerful they can be. How disturbingly powerful the guilds could be if they really just, like, amped it up, flicked the switch and just said, you know what, we're going to take it to another level. Come get me Lord Helmore.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
going back to what you said before about the actual, like, the travelling banks, this is the basis of their power. So, Mike, we all know money isn't real, right? And it's just a way to keep us enslaved to those in power. So, we can feed into capitalism and inevitably, like, die. But on Necromunda, that's taken to the extreme. You didn't know that?
No.
Oh, yeah, no, money's not real, man.
Oh, okay.
Some guy decided to plough a field. Now, all of a sudden, I've got to get up 5 days a week and go to a job. But stupid agrarians. But what actually happens there is these settlements, because so many of them would just be trading on guild credit. Like, very few people would have genuine currency. I think in a lot of situations, people would almost be trading in guild currency and that, so they may have wealth behind them. And don't get me wrong, you obviously have people who have access to credits. The nobles purchasing things off world, the guilders themselves trading with other traders. You have to have credits or something of value, something marketable, worth sort of a certain amount, or something that can be determined to be worth a certain amount, especially when dealing with the difference between credits on Necromunda versus imperial currency.
Of course, yes.
Like we talked about it in the Mutants episode, when you don't still love that Gene Jack pound beat twist. When they're trading in the currency for the local shop, like they did on that currency there has no value beyond that actual shop. But the mutants were trading, remember, in nuggets of raw materials, nuggets of precious metals and that sort of thing there. I can imagine that a lot of trade in the Underhive may not necessarily be the smaller token chips, those official credits, but your Escher may be trading in lumps of gold. The Orlocks might be trading in, nuggets or maybe even small smelted bars of, or nuggets of, metals. The Goliaths may be trading in small smelted bars. The Delark just sort of squeeze one of their glands and spray you with mayonnaise, like whatever it is they do. But that's how I imagine a lot of that trade goes. And that's fine in the Underhive, but when you want to deal with the next rank up or the next rank after that, that's when the guilders have their power. Because you're trading in nuggets, the guilders are trading in pallets. The nobles are trading in containers. And Helmore trades in blood.
Exactly.
It gets bigger and bigger.
I really like your idea about the currency here, because I didn't think about that, because the guilders help legitimize the currency in a way.
Yes.
They're saying, okay, we can offer you X amount of, I guess it says credits, right? But I don't believe that these are necessarily imperial credits. No, they're not. They're not imperial credits. They're guild tokens, they're guild bonds, right?
They simply represent a debt owed to the bearer by the guild, kind of
And
like
vice
money.
versa.
How
Yeah,
money
but-
isn't real; it simply represents. Sorry, no.
Anyway, besides the point of fake money, what this is it allows, say, a member from House Escher to go, okay, well, you owe our particular gang 5,000 guild tokens or 5,000 credits. So we're not going to take that, but we're gonna ebb away at that. So we actually use you as almost like a credit card in a way, where you can say we're going to take some of that money and we're going to pay for X, Y, and Z with it. But then we need you to go buy us weapons over at, the Van Sar bloody shop, we'll call it. So the guild head over there and they said we need X amount of las guns or X amount of whatever equipment. They grab it and the Van Sar say, okay, well, you don't, we simply give you these things and it reduces our debt to you by X amount. So there's never actually like a physical exchange of the money, and it's just like almost like you're tapping your credit card. You're just going, oh, we tap this. But the guilder is the person or the guilder family is the one that goes off and does all these interactions, because they are the ones maintaining the ebb and flow of that credit storage. So Escher owe us X, Van Sar owe us X, but we owe them X, and vice versa. So they become this as I mentioned before, this really important cog, because they can not only legitimize the money, but they can allow that money to be spent in areas where it normally couldn't be spent. Do you know what I mean?
Even just those guild bonds. They can just hand you a stack of those. So if they owe you that 5,000 creds, okay, I will give you 50, 100 credit guild notes. And so they are physical. It's not even currency. It's just evidence of a debt being owed.
Yes.
And then you can take those to your local merchant and say, give me 100 credits worth of, what did we say before? Lumps of slag, so I can throw them out to the gang and we can go for drinks, or give us, we break it down even further to those guild tokens. This is what they allow. We know Necromunda exists for trade. It simply provides the Imperium with its supplies, and the Merchant Guild, Helmore, has done exactly what he needed to. He took the element of individuals who were already trading between settlements, who were already creating these supply lines, and I say Helmore, we don't know which Helmore it was. I'm assuming it was one of the older ones.
Yeah.
But this Helmore has basically said, cool, you keep doing what you're doing. You're the only ones who can do it, and if anyone screws with you, I will destroy them, I will destroy their families, I will destroy their settlement.
Yeah.
And people would have done it.
Yeah, 100%. And if another merchant guild decides that they want to jump in on your territory, we will destroy them as well.
Yep. Unless they can pay us more.
Yeah, pretty much. Unless they prove to be the better option, but we will offer you some sort of protection, but I guess sort of centralization as well, in that the sense that you will be our number one. You just got to wear that badge and make sure that all the families attached to you wear that badge. You step out of line, we handle you as we handle anybody else. But it just shows how much, like how important they are, the guilds, how much they are like the arteries of the body. You know what I mean? They're just the ebb and flow, making things happen. They're just tucked away under the surface, and they're just constantly keeping Necromunda afloat. And I fully believe, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, that they are the absolute requirement to meeting the tithe as well. So without them, Necromunda doesn't meet its tithe, and then we have a serious problem. So I could understand the Helmores, whether ancient or current, seeing them and going, this is what we need to stop the gangs from totally wiping each other out, from the houses from just annihilating the industry of another house, we need the guilders in place to keep everything lubricated, keep everything running smoothly.
Perfect. Well, heading back to the guilders, guilders actually wear a distinctive merchant badge of credit suspended upon a heavy chain. The more wealthy a guilder, the bigger and more ornamental his badge. This serves as a sign of office and identifies the guilder when he passes through house checkpoints. The merchant's badge is also a device, a tool of his trade, imprinted with access codes to his central auto ledgers and credit rating. The badge guarantees the guilder's trading arrangements on behalf of the merchant guild and is used as a seal, both electronically and physically. Okay, I still reckon their central ledger would be a book. But obviously, it's because, I can just imagine that, like I've said it already, someone is physically making every adjustment, and it's done by their hand, they know their handwriting, etc., etc. But the central auto ledger is, I imagine, every member of that caravan I mentioned before has their own auto ledger. So it's, Nathan, as the head of your family, you look at it and you go, well, Billy, you spent a lot of credits here purchasing this stock, but when you sold it, you made a 35% profit on that one there. Beautiful. Excellent there. Well done. You can eat today. And little Tommy, you spent a lot of money here, and you actually ended up selling some of this for a loss. So you definitely can't eat today. And you can actually see that, and I can imagine it would be bringing up graphs of buying, selling, etc., etc.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Little Roxanne, you actually purchased nothing, somehow sold everything for twice as much because you were stealing from both your brothers. You can eat as much as you want because you've done something that has made us all proud. Monumental profit.
You can eat one of your brothers if you
can
want
eat
to.
one of your brothers. You can eat Tommy. I'm basically now picturing all the guilders as Ferengi from Star Trek. But no, I love this because there's this amazing photo from N95 of this guilder, and he has like a mutant rat sort of hat on. He's got these guns strapped to his back, and he's got this guilder logo strapped to his chest, and it's this huge skull of a thing. And it's got this piece of paper coming out of it like an old style stock ticker tape.
Yeah.
And it's phenomenal. But
He's only
got this little chain around it.
Yeah.
But I love how it says, the more successful they are, the bigger and more ostentatious it is. There's bling in the 41st millennium.
I was about to say that.
It's professional bling.
Yes. It is bling that actually has a function. So we need it to be able to print off these things. But to reiterate what you're saying about having an actual ledger and having this digital print off, the ledger is there for permanency. The bling is there to be able to do the calculations on
no matter where you are.
No matter where you are, but like almost on a live basis, Yes. So if we need to calculate right now, or we need to calculate in an hour, we can't go back to the ledger and have a look at all the trade that has happened with, this particular gang or this particular settlement. We need to then be able to process that quite quickly. But our ledger, any truth that is in the ledger is 100% truth. If you ever dispute what our bling is saying, then we will refer back to the ledger.
We go to the ledger line by line.
Yeah, it may take us a couple of years to eventually establish the answer, but if you're wrong and you're lying to us and the ledger has proved you wrong, we come for you,
See,
and that...
I want to correct one thing you've said. I shouldn't say correct. I want to challenge you on one thing you've said there. I don't believe it would take them years and years and years to go through those ledgers. This isn't the administratum. This is an actual, well-organised and efficient business that they're running.
Traitor.
I can imagine them sitting there and going, so you're questioning what we sold that to you for? What, do you want every record for the last 47 cycles? Done. And they would bring out the actual seals, and they'd do the print off there, and they'd say, all right, what line do you have? You have what, page 245, line 1521, 245, 1521, yep. Okay, open the ledger, and they bring it up. And they'd be able to read it off one by one. It would be this matter of honour, but not only that, of business integrity. Because if your caravan is seen as ripping people off, why are they going to buy from you?
Yes. Do you know what? You've sold me on that straight away, because they cannot be the lumbering beast that is the administratum. They cannot, because it needs to happen almost in like record time or live, and that's why you do have the bling that is able, the cogitator that is able to produce. But when something is challenged, they're able to then send messages to where the ledgers are held and say, perfect, we need to check, it might be 1,000 entries, but we need to check all 1,000 of these entries. All right, we'll have the answer for you in a couple of days. And so they turn back around and they turn back to the settlement and say, you're wrong. And because of that, you now pay a fee. And
perfect.
They don't need to, and this reiterates my point before, they don't need to take physical credits from the settlement. What they do is they say, in our Guilder bank, or in the credits and the bonds and everything that we have from you, we're now going to reduce you by 25%. That is your punishment.
But
and
they would notify other guilders as well.
Oh, yes.
This settlement has questioned the integrity of the merchants' guilds. They've questioned the Guilder family of Nathan. And by questioning you, they have questioned every other merchant guild family in the hive, on the planet. So we have stated that for the next 5 cycles, they are paying a premium of 25% off anything they purchase from one of us. And every guilder would sit there and go, like, just imagine, they've all got mustaches and monocles like old British blue blood. Just, what?
What now? No.
What?
No.
What? They're shaking their canes and drinking their tea and... And that's what they'd do it. They'd be sitting there, fine, that's fine. And everyone's guild seals would get the update.
Yeah, so the little cogitator prints out like settlement, Cragley Rock or something like that, gets a note. And it gets put in all the ledgers as well. Cragley Rock. Just
that comes through, punishment. The ledger gets updated. Cragley Rock.
Exactly. Yep. But this again says, if you have this level of communication and affiliation with each other, the power of the guilds is ridiculous.
Oh, mate.
Just beyond the scope of anything that anybody on Necromunda could put together and hold together so well, because they're not in it for each other. The guild, the Water Guild is not trying to help out the Electro Guild, but as a collective, as a cohesive, they need to understand. It's almost like a union motto of you touch one guild, you touch all guilds. Perfect. So if you're going to hurt, you touch one, you touch all. If you're going to hurt us, you need to understand that the hurt that is brought back upon you is much worse, is a lot more devastating.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm very much down for this aspect and notion of what the guilds would be like in that scenario.
So we do actually really need to get into some of the actual guilds and stuff, but I have a question about the Guilder seals. So it says that it identifies them when they come through house checkpoints, moving through different domes and sections and that. Absolutely. It's tools of trade, access codes to the auto ledgers, and credit rating. So, credit rating.
Yes.
Do you think that not only are they using this to identify that better credit rating means a higher ranking amongst other guilders, but also you would only marry into other guilder families that were within your acceptable credit rating?
Firstly, the first thing I'm going to say is that is an amazing seal. Like, not only to have survived out of water for that long, but to be able to give out all that information.
No. Oh, can we go one episode without you? Are they double entendres?
No, they're just, it's humour, mate. Like, it's just humour, okay? I'm trying to bring you under my wing, or in this particular case, under my flipper, and you're not accepting it. Go on, put a ball on your nose right now. Embrace the seal. Embrace the seal.
I'm going to go maul a trainer at SeaWorld later on. It's just in your honour.
Okay, no, actually talking about what you're saying, totally, I agree. That their bling, their seals, would be giving them enough information that they could say, even interactions with another family, another Guilder family, they'd be like, no, we don't, no. You are very much the country bumpkin style of Guilder family, and an associate putting into our ledger that we traded with you, no matter how desperate we are, is reflecting on us that we potentially have fell on some quite dire times. So we're not going to interact with you. You know what I mean? So then the notions of marriage and the notions of intermingling the families would become even more of a no-no, of just like, absolutely not. I think it's almost like, way back in the day, like especially like 1800 and so, you would have traders from within the cities going out into the agricultural areas and just looking at the traders out there, and they're fundamentally doing the same thing, but just going, ooh, like this is like imagine a fur trader from out in the boonies as opposed to like a cloth trader from within inside a city. They're effectively doing the same thing, but the fur trader would be looked down upon because they are not of the right standing, because they smell a bit funny, because they don't have as much collateral behind them. And I can imagine the Guilders would be doing the same thing here as well, just going, well, yes, you are us, but you're not of us. You know what I mean? Like, you're not us.
I really like that. It also leads on to another point about the Guilder seal. The item in the black market, the forged Guilder seal. So it's 55 credits. It's a legal 11, right? Truly decent forged documents are a rarity in the Underhive, and one's good enough for a ganger to pass himself off as a Guilder, even more so, though they do exist. Only the baldest criminals pretend to be Guilders, however, for the consequences of being discovered and caught involves a long and painful execution. When a fighter with a forged Guilder seal visits the trading post, they reduce the rarity of items by 2. In addition, the prices of any items they buy are reduced by 3d6 credits to a minimum of 10 credits. However, if they roll a double 1 or double 6 when reducing the price of an item, they have been discovered. The item is bought as normal, however. The seal is then removed from their fighter card, and the fighter's gang are declared outlaws.
Yeah, right. Wow.
How have I never purchased that? That seemed like so much fun.
the jeopardy of the roll after the game. You're like, come on, baby, just like, I know it's just a simple chainsword, but I'm going to use the seal anyway. Let's go for why did I use the seal to buy the chainsword at a reduced rate? I'm an idiot. I could have just bought it and it would have been fine. Okay, I'm an outlaw. Yeah, that's cool. And this is what I mentioned at the very top of the episode, is how important the guilds are to the lore, the background, and the overall workings of Necromunda. And an item like this proves that so much so that a gang becomes an outlaw gang straight away. You have crossed one of the lines that you absolutely do not cross on Necromunda by trying to use a forged seal. So,
but I love the fact that these lesser traders, like those one-off traders like you mentioned before, when they see that seal, they go, well, I'll give you a better price because I want to curry favour with you.
Yes, exactly that. And they're like,
I love that. It feeds in.
Yeah, you're from the guild. Oh, don't look at the stuff on the shelf. I've got some good stuff out the back. Like, that's for the regulars. Come out the back. You're from the guild. Have a sit down. Like, you are chewing a ridiculous amount of crayons, but you're a guilder. You do whatever you want to guild, you know. Yeah.
Yep, that is a stabby stab, otherwise known as a knife.
Yeah. Now, can you mention which guild family you're from again, please?
The Crayola. I've never heard of them, but that seal looks very sharp.
Yeah.
Did your seal just? That's literally just a servo skull you've jammed a length of chain around. I actually see it now. Yeah. You've spray painted it silver.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, you were wearing it when you spray painted it silver.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's like he's been chroming.
Yeah. I realise I have made a terrible error.
Yeah. You're an outlaw. Roll these 3 dice for me. What for? Don't worry. It's just a requirement. You're already declared an outlaw. Oh, look, double 6. You're gone.
Yeah.
You're finished.
You're done.
Well, look, I think we've covered the basis of the...
Yeah, that's the basic outlay of the guilds.
Yeah. So I think take an opportunity to talk about a particular guild.
Sick. I think... I actually really want to talk about the Makeda Sanguis, the slave guild.
So do I. But as I know what everybody would want us to talk about is... Oh, you're getting upset straight away. Let's talk about the Zeppelin Guild. Come on. Just rip the Band-Aid off. Enjoy it. Enjoy it for what it is.
Rip the Band-Aid off. I'm glad you're in South Australia so I can come around there and punch you in the head.
Take a Zeppelin over. Be quick. All right. The Makeda Temperium, otherwise known as the Zeppelin Guild, or the Air Guild, or the I like to make my stuff up about guilds guild. The Air Guild controls the flow of breathable air through the hives of Necromunda. Within the iron mountains of the hives, where air pools and stagnates in domes, passages and caverns, and the air beyond the skin of the hive, threaded as it is with toxins and pollutants, the guild holds the threads of life itself. Every turbine and ventilation shaft, air refiner and smoke vent is controlled by the guild, either directly or by the cut they take from those that run them. By their command, entire sectors of the hives can choke, freeze, or die slowly from breathing tainted air. Agents of the Air Guild often carry small, many-mouthed beasts known as Zephs with them. These vicious little creatures are drawn to fresh air, squeaking and growling when they find a pure vein of oxygen. When a Zeph finds a good source of air, it grows in size, the air sacs in its muscles swelling until it becomes a floating monstrosity. The Air Guild enjoys the irony of having air thieves torn apart by packs of Zephs, the creatures growing massive on stolen oxygen. So these massive creatures, they expand like balloons.
You give them enough air, and then you can eventually strap like an Mount Howder to them.
Yeah.
And you can then transport passengers. Yeah.
I wasn't getting at that, but clearly there's scars left on you that that make you think like that. So correct me if I'm wrong here. Do the Air Guild have miniatures?
No, they don't have.
Pretty sure
miniatures
they
yet.
would. Yeah. So I reckon that'd be great. I'd love to see what the design shop thinks a Zeph would look like. But that's such a cool idea. These little creatures, lots of mouths, just sucking in the oxygen. They almost seem quite insidious. The Air Guild. It's almost like the basic tenets of what you need to survive are like air and water. A little bit of food. I think you can survive like 3 or 4 days. I'm probably wrong on this. Somebody told me recently. Or it might even be a week without food or something like that, or 3 weeks without food. But you go...
It's much less time without water.
Yeah. I think it's only like maybe 2 or 3 days without water or something.
And then oxygen, I think, like a couple of minutes. And then you're in a bad way.
Yeah. So the very nature of what the Air Guild does is horrendous.
They suck.
Yeah, they are proper bar stewards of Necromunda. They're just like, are you breathing unsanctioned? Oof, that is a naughty thing to have done there. We are going to have to set one of these many-mouthed things onto you, and they're going to chew up all the oxygen inside of you. That is disgusting.
Can you imagine sending a bunch of them into a dome where, these guys these criminals are harvesting purified oxygen illegally, cutting into your profits. So you go, okay, let's cover the exits. Let's dump half a dozen Zephs in there. and they find those oxygen veins and they start sucking it in. They start getting nice and fat, and then when they're big enough that they can just rip apart something man-sized, they just go after them one at a time.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh,
And it'd just be
it's
like
horrifying.
let them loose, like
Yeah.
just get them in there. But I think even if they're not taking on, like even if they're not ripping apart the individuals or the oxygen thieves, which I think is just a horrendous thing to say because everybody needs oxygen, but they would be just taking the oxygen and inflating themselves, so they grow monstrous in size. And I can imagine that then the Air Guild would then tap these Zephs of all the oxygen and then hold on to pure oxygen. They'd just be like draining, like deflating a balloon and just like getting storage tanks, loading up pure oxygen.
That is exactly how I picture them. Like literally, they put them into a room and they like pop them.
Yep.
And they fly around the room like the first time your kid got a balloon and realised they could do it.
Yeah.
And it
yeah.
just,
Yeah.
all around the room, and then the Zeph's deflated. And, they put the Zeph back in the cage, and there's just a vacuum, and it just sucks the oxygen into a storage tank, and they end up selling it back to that dome they've just taken it from, but for a massively inflated price.
Oh, I see. I imagine the Zephs almost like refine the oxygen. And I don't know why I think this, but like, and then I could see them taking that and selling it up hive, like saying these are levels of oxygen that we have. This is like our pure oxygen stuff. This is our not so good gradient stuff, and then the garbage just gets sold into the Underhive. Just you're running out of oxygen in your hab. Okay, here, buy a bottle from us. But it's like it says 50% on there. Oh, that's just the last owner. That's what we sold it to them for. We gave them a 50% discount. Can I get that? No, obviously not. And then they give them this pure, like this purely tainted sort of oxygen, but the good stuff they would save for the noble houses because they know they can make more money off it. So they're just like, yes, we've found it's a pure veins of oxygen. So it's almost like they're prospecting for it. They get it and they take it to the upper hive, and they're just like, here you go, this is the good stuff. And they might find an area of the Underhive, exploit and tap out all that pure oxygen from it, because they can't suffocate the populace, because then they're not doing their job, and then the guild loses its capacity to maintain control. So,
but it also puts itself in conflict with every other group. If you kill the workforce, it's just, well, hold on, that's the Makeda Temperium. No, they're not supposed to be screwing around with this. Yeah. Like, what are they doing? We need bodies to work the factorium. Oh, but they said they haven't paid their oxygen fees, and that's fine. Who's going to tell Helmore?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. If the manufactorium shuts down because you decided you wanted to suffocate the entire lot of them, what's happening to the tithe? What's happening to the supply of whatever that manufactorium was feeding? So they go, yes. Okay, well, we'll provide them, but we'll provide them some low standard oxygen. So they'll go in, they'll tap one of these pure oxygen veins, and they'll just exploit it like any sort of mineral farming sort of industry would. They drain it all and then feed back rubbish oxygen and take the good stuff to the upper hive, where they know they can sell it for just an exorbitant amount of credits.
Well, not even that. They'd be purifying it. They'd be, whether it's your idea of the Zephs purifying it, or if it's just something as simple as, what's what I'm looking for, like actual machinery refining it. And I also love the idea of them exploring forgotten domes and that sort of thing, because, as we talk about archaeotech and that a lot, but we don't know the equipment that's been abandoned. And yes. As dome runners and explorers and even just underhivers or gangs or whatever, as they find these domes with the technology that's been left under there, what's to say someone hasn't come across a piece of machinery that is 100% effective at purifying oxygen? Yeah. And all of a sudden, the Air Guild's sitting there going, well, we are in trouble if anyone else gets a hold of this. We need to take control of that dome. And it said there, where was it? Every turbine and ventilation shaft, air refiner and smoke vent is controlled by the guild either directly or by the cut they take from those that run them. So what's to say they don't say to that Van Sar gang, all right, you've found it, that's cool, guess what? We own it.
Yeah.
You run it for us.
Yeah.
You maintain your power base and you can build one of your little tech settlements here, that's fine. But you remember, at the end of the day, we let you run this. So when our guilders show up and need the tanks filled up, because I'm imagining their caravans would have these huge, like compressed air tanks and like basically scuba tanks and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Just gas bottles, basically.
Gas bottles.
Lines and lines of gas bottles.
And yeah, like when we want to fill up, you don't ask how much, you just fill.
Yeah, exactly.
And we will allow you to use this technology and do whatever it is you Van Sar want to do. But remember who runs it.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, you go kiss your STC on the mouth as much as you like. I don't care, provided that we are topped up when we want to be. But I do think they would be looking at looking to find pure veins of pure oxygen, as well as supplementing that with having machinery, creatures, whatever the case might be, that could do that for them as well. They become the Mercator Temperium become probably one of the most powerful and most valuable guilds in Necromunda, in the Imperium almost, because everybody needs the air. But it also makes them the weakest because they have so little control. As we mentioned before, they can't actually just go in and switch the air off unless Lord Helmore says that particular section of the hive, give them no air, like let them suffer. But you can't do that because it rallies the masses against you.
I think you could do it a lot more than you would expect, but the other guilds would have a lot more leeway in who they can completely cut off.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
If you can cut off a settlement for food.
Yeah, the Mercator Temperium, they can have so much control, but they really it's almost like you just got to tap the pedal a little bit rather than full on slam it to the floor and say cut them off. What you can say is we just limit the amount of oxygen they have, because until they can pay their debt or reimburse us for some affront they made to us, or they're not allowing us access to the vents and the technologies that we know that they have, start to turn it all off on them. And
it'd be like in Total Recall when
exactly.
he's cutting off the oxygen and they're all starting to get faint and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, but then it gets to a certain point where you then need the backing of Lord Helmore to say, yes, continue that process, because then they might turn around and just go, no, we need that sector of the hive, so switch it all back on, resolve it somehow differently. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
like, what are you doing? That's a Yulante dome, and my fourth wife is kind of pissed right now.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's what I'm saying. Like they're the most powerful, but also the most weakest at the same time. But I think for a guild, I would love to still see miniatures for them. I'd love to see like what the interpretation is for them, because they are, on the same tier as the Water Guild, I think, in that we need to, like, they're vastly important, they're great, and they still function, I believe, very much like the Water Guild, where the Water Guild's finding small little snippets of water and exploiting it, and that's what the Mercator Temperium is doing as well.
Well, I'm actually wrong. They do have an official model.
No. They do. The single one, yes.
It is released for some reason under the old world as the Sky Lantern for Grand Cathay.
I'm an idiot. I thought you were talking about something else. Thank you very much for that.
What do you think I was talking about?
Oh no, there's a bounty hunter, but I think he's a water guild guy.
No, that's
Yeah.
Eros Slagmist.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know what? You're right. Grand Cathay is the actual unofficial official Mercator Temperium.
Mercator Zeppelanus.
Zeppelana.
But it's even full of Guilders.
It is very much full of Guilders, all taking notes, dropping bombs on people as well.
Yep, for not paying their air tax.
And burning oxygen by lighting fires so that they can get higher up. Yep.
Perfect. Yeah, I still stand by the fact that I reckon there would be a Zeppelin guild, and as we have mentioned so many times, Jimmy Wizzle, what I call my best friend James Workshop, he definitely listens to the podcast because we got the Zeppelin. But if he is listening to us right now, come on, man, back a brother up. Give us some Stratoplanes and Zeppelins. I need this. I really need this.
It's been 2 years, baby. Crowbar it into the law, please.
But I totally agree with you. I think I love the Fire Guild and water and all that sort of stuff. Oh, well, not water. The other guilds like Slavers Guild and that, but the Water Guild and the Air Guild, in my mind, you're absolutely right. They are the two most important because you can go hungry for a few days, and you can do the job yourself. You don't need prisoners with jobs, and the electricity. Even if there's an electrician, come on, man, just get like a couple of potatoes, some copper wire, and some nails, and you make a battery. That's easy, done. Air and water are essentials to the continuation of human life, and to see them represented on the table. I just think, I think is so cool. And sort of one of the reasons we're doing this is because we want to bring more of an eye towards the guilds and to bringing them in as allies. And I think the Air Guild especially is just so important to that.
Yeah, and I think the idea is like have a look at your gangs, have a look at your next, hobby project, and how do the guilds treat and work with my gang or with my concept of my Venators or whatever the case might be. How exactly can I flesh out an Air Guild gang? Do you know what I mean? So, I'm very much on board for exploring the rest of the guilds, which I guess we will turn this into an ongoing series. There's a fair few. Well, we know there's 8, and we've touched on one. 8?
There's 6.
8. We're about to 8.
Am I just way off? No, it's 6. They are the Promethium Guild, the Water Guild, the Corpse Guild, the Slave Guild, the Guild of Coin, the Electro Guild, Iron Guild, Net Guild. Yeah, 8. So why would you think there's only 6?
Do you know what? Not enough oxygen in my house right now.
Yeah.
I have not paid
South Australia is well known for its thin oxygen.
Yeah, exactly.
Churches, service stations, thin oxygen.
And somehow there is a Mercator Temperium operating in and around South Australia, sucking the oxygen out of the air. Yeah. I almost see, actually, we've sort of had a bit of enough chat about the Air Guild, but one last thing. Do you know how, the British have a TV licence? You know what I mean? I could see some
it's
of
for the BBC, isn't it? You have to have a TV licence.
I think it's
if you
the most
watch
insane
anything
thing
done
ever.
by the BBC.
Yeah, it's just like, in your private home, have a licence to do something. But anyway, it's beside the point. I can see, the Water Guild and the Air Guild definitely having licenses. You've got to pay the license fee to be able to get access to the vent system, to the water system.
Very much so, yes.
Almost like your rates or your water or whatever the case like that might be. I know in Australia they can't cut off your water in your home. Do you know what I mean? They just can't. They're just not allowed to turn it off. So if you don't pay your water
essential
bill,
to human life.
Yeah, exactly. But I'd say somewhere in Necromunda there would be a license for using the air, and the when you fall behind on your payments on it just slowly diminishes the quality.
Yeah.
They will never turn it off. Yeah.
There's just it's kind of like a mixer on a shower.
Yeah, yeah.
Instead of hot, cold, it's oxygen/exhaust.
Yeah, exactly. They're just like, they just adjust it till eventually the payment hits the account. They're like, you can get more oxygen now. So we'll never turn it off on you, but we most certainly will make you realise that
make
you
it much
are,
worse.
Yeah, you are behind on your payments. So I could see them definitely having a license in some way, shape or form. But
That.
yeah.
So, okay. What's your Air Guild gang idea?
Oh,
because I've got one.
no, you go, because I want to hear what your boys in the Zeppelins are going to be doing.
I'm actually stealing an idea from you.
Shock horror.
Harken back to when you were talking about the Mahosian hoplites.
Yes.
All right? On the Eye of Selene.
Yes.
So the Air Guild is going to be massively important to the ongoing sort of life on the Eye of Selene. So what I would be doing is I would be taking like your Air Guild member. So you'd have, in my mind, like a primary agent, and then maybe his, I'll call it like an apprentice. Actually, it's the primary agent and then the Zeph handler. So the Zeph handler has, I can imagine, this backpack, and it has these, the little, it's like a cage, and he's got half a dozen of these squeaking little Zeph when they're only teeny tiny. And so around him, I'm going to build something very similar to your hoplites, where they're in like full body synth suits. They've got almost like breacher armor.
Yeah.
So what they do is they find where on the Eye of Selene people are harvesting the oxygen or stealing the oxygen from.
Yep.
And what these breaches do is they effectively go to the outside of the building, and they can either punch in through the side of the Eye of Selene, or what they do is they release the Zephs in. The Zephs start consuming the oxygen. The Guilder cuts the oxygen off to that particular section of the station, and then the breaches can go in because their suits are fully contained.
Oh, yes,
while
of course.
the individuals in that section of the station, they start choking out. These breaches don't care.
Yeah.
They've got their own man-portable, like, scuba tanks, basically.
Yep.
And I can imagine this big sort of almost ritual, this gang built around the Oxygen Guild, sort of the Air Guild, when they're receiving the refill of oxygen. It's almost a prayer, you know. I give you the breath of life.
Yeah.
And they would take these, because they're not going to be full length scuba tanks. They're only going to be small, you know, hour, maybe 90 minutes of oxygen in one of these things. I don't know if that's a lot or a little in scuba. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, but they're only little. And it'd be quite a big thing, but you'd have them, they'd all be wearing like the Krieg-style masks, but the tubes would all be going to different little tanks. I picture, ironically, they would use a lot of fire weapons, because it's the idea of, as they're attacking you, you've stolen the oxygen, we are stealing it back. Yeah. We don't even want it. We just don't want you to have it.
Yes, absolutely. So they're just like, on the little oxygen that you do have available, we're evaporating it on you. Yeah. That is freaking cool. And I can imagine that, like, so much, like, so many symbols and iconography of the Air Guild planted upon them. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And it becomes, like, as you were saying, like this religious sort of practice to connect up to an air tank. Or, and the Zeph is just growing massive in the background, like just filling up. And then they eventually just, like, it's already got, I can imagine it's already just got like little, like, do you know how Space Marines, like, the armor plugs into the parts of their black carapace?
Yes.
You know, some of these Zephs would already have a few, like, little plug-in points where they just plug it straight in and it just starts draining those air sacs straight away.
Yeah, and you can imagine, like, they would have that handler. He would have small tanks on him. So, and he just quickly punctures the side of the air sac, and it just just quickly sucks that oxygen out. The Zeph starts going back down into squeaky mode. It goes back in the cage. You've done a good job. You've done a good job. And he takes the container and puts it on the back of the servitor that carries that all with them. Yeah, that would be lots of fun. But yeah, lots of flame weapons, lots of gas grenades, that sort of thing.
Oh, gas weapons, of course. That would work so nicely. They could just get in there and just be like, yep, you have such limited amount. Also, we're taking that as well.
We're poisoning the very air you breathe because it is stolen. It does not belong to you. Every breath should kill you just a little more.
So I think also there would be almost a sacrifice needs to be made to the air. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they would be saying, okay, we're actually going to treat the air with reverence because we are stealing it. We are corrupting it. We're destroying it. But such was so brutal was the crime that was enacted against the air that it is right for some of it to be sacrificed, so others will know how terrible their crime was. That we were willing to destroy the thing that we covet the most. Oh, mate, what a cool gang idea. I love that.
But I love the idea of the sort of the hoplites there, because obviously this also works in the Underhive, because they would be going dome to dome, but they would, because they're no longer, under strict jurisdictions like they are on the Eye of Selene, they can be right pricks in the Underhive. They can just go, yep, seal off the whole dome, yep, and those chemicals we got from the Escher, pump it through all the air ducts. Just kill everyone. Like, we can they'll just kill the whole section. They're scum. Who cares? We'll just purify the air later. We'll send the Zephs in.
Yes. Oh, mate, I love that and they would find parts of the Underhive to do that too. Do you know what I mean?
They couldn't do it in the busy areas, not in the manufactorums, but these little, scavenged domes, or if you've moved into an old facility or something like that, they would just be going, we don't have time to go through their fortifications and spend all of our time fighting them. Lock the doors, gas them.
Lock the doors and gas them. They're the ones who came up with it, probably. Yeah. So I really like that idea of it's almost like elite members of the Mercator Temperium. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't even see those members that you're talking about, the breaches, as part of the guild. They're more like these hired guns who have been taken on the pathway to venerate the oxygen, venerate the air. We don't worship it as a entity or as a god or anything like that, but we certainly hold it in like the highest of standings. It is part and parcel of what defines who we are, and as a part of these breach teams, I wear that on my chest as a badge of honor that I serve the Mercator Temperium. That's cool. I love that gang idea. That's really awesome. I was a little bit adrift about what my gang idea is, and then you mentioned the Zephs, and I thought to myself, of course, why would I not think of this in the first place? A little Zeph hunting team, right? They need to go. They don't farm the Zephs. Zephs exist where oxygen is like the tastiest. You know what I mean?
Are they hunting wild Zephs?
Hunting wild Zephs, yes.
Oh, dude.
So, I've been painting a lot of orcs and goblins recently, and one of my favourite things is squigs. So,
squiggly peas.
Squiggly little pigglies. And just the squig hunting teams that go out there and they gather up the squigs to make the squig herds, and then the others who are mad enough to ride them and so forth. So I see this as a Venator gang entirely made up of ratlings. right? They're the only ones who can get close enough because they're small, they're unassuming, they can hide away, but they all of them have rebreathers on. So this is the key thing. They must all have something that blocks out their oxygen. So they can't actually breathe because a Zeph will attach itself to their mouth. That's one of the dangers they found. It just starts sucking the oxygen straight out in a little rattling. They'll have like nets and hooks and like almost like butterfly catchers. Do you know what I mean? So
yes,
just scoop off over the top of them, little cages where they stuff all the Zephs inside of there. They'll all have like gloves that are like gauntlet type gloves because they've got so many little mouths. They're just like nip at you and bite at you and so forth. And you just like, get off. You just throw them into a little cage, and the little cage is not open aired. It is like a box that just slowly seeps in pure oxygen, and so the Zeph wants to stay inside there. You know what I mean? So it's like a see-through box, so they can see how many are dying, how many are living. Do they need to turn up the oxygen?
I'm also, because when they suck in pure oxygen, they get bigger, so they'd just be squishing into each other, which means they can like struggle less. Yeah.
And then so you get a full load, and you're like, cool. And then they bring them off to the Mercator Temporium, and they're like, here's more Zephs for you. So they're not necessarily part of the Air Guild. They're part of the family of the Air Guild, but they're not considered part of the guild. And so it has to all be Rattlings. They're the only ones who can do the job, because, Rattlings can go, like, sneak away and sort of be like the old Hobbit trick of not being noticed when they don't want to be noticed. Do you know what I mean? And, the weaponry and so forth, it'll all be... Like, sometimes they got to kill Zephs as well. So they'll have, like, shotguns. They'll have even, like, shields and so forth. Where, I can imagine a shield which just emits oxygen. So it has a little oxygen cylinder on the back of it. And you just take it as a regular shield. I don't know, something you can pick up off the trade... What is it called again? Something you can pick up off the black market or the trading post. But it's the actual aesthetic look of the shield is an oxygen tank attached to the back of it, just pumping out like little bursts of oxygen, and it's like a dinner bell for the Zephs, and they just all come sucking onto the shield sort of thing, and then you gotta like rip them off, but you gotta get them before they get too big outside of the cages, because then you gotta start killing them because they're too big. You know what I mean?
Too big, yeah.
Yeah. So they're all... I always see them like going into like bat caves and that kind of environment, where there's streams of oxygen that the Zephs are all feeding off. And they're not getting massive because there's so many of them. And the Rattlings try to snatch up as many as they can. So
That's sick. It's definitely a Rattling's eating a Zeph at some point. It's just fairy floss.
100%. He's like, you bite me, I bite you. Oh, that was tasty. Now let us just throw a little bit of Sunkrock spice on that and pan fry that.
I've got an idea. I need the lungs, kidneys, liver, and stomach of a Grox. I'm going to stick it in the Zeph. This is a squat sticks his head around and just be like, a curse on both your houses. But can I have some of your Zeph haggis?
So that's the type of gang I can see. I just think, it embraces everything I've been embracing recently, which is squigs. God, I love squigs. They're cool. And
I love squigs. Squigs are the dumbest thing in 40k. They're the best.
I just love them more in fantasy. Just think, going to go squig hunting. It's just the coolest thing. And then
the squig pipes.
Yes. Yes. Yep. I have that miniature actually.
Bagpipes made of squigs. Perfect.
Yeah, beautiful. So that's the gang idea. I'm really liking the way this series is already going that we've started about the guilds. I really want to explore a few of the other ones as well. I think the Zeppelin Guild was the best one to start with, and we can take it from there. Whoa. It goes upward and upward from here.
I'm trying to think. What was the name of that Zeppelin that crashed?
The Hindenburg. Yeah, the Hindenburg.
Yeah. You've really Hindenburged this episode.
Oh, the humanity. Right.
Oh, the humanity! All right. So, I think that's it. I've definitely taken a lot more of your time than I expected. You have to go to bed.
I do have to go to bed.
So, yes, thank you very much for tonight. And it's amazing that we've been able to do an episode while you're interstate. I'm really excited. So as we do for these episodes, we are going to end this one here on a quote. And I think this one really sets up what we were talking about, well, especially what you were talking about in some of your reads about the guilds themselves. 1 coin and 10 for the Merchants Guild. That's what it says on their seal. But have you ever seen a guilder take just one? That is Ethan Squibb, an Ashtown trapper. And that was our latest episode of the Underhive Lorekeepers podcast. I am Spamiel, and on behalf of the Lorekeeper team, thank you for listening. Please follow us on our social media pages available in the show notes, and don't forget to follow and review us on your preferred podcast platform. As always, if you have questions, complaints, corrections, or if you just want to talk about the glorious Zeppelin existence of the Air Guild, please reach out to us at underhivelorekeepers@gmail.com. Thanks.